Hey, Taylor Elwood here, and thought I would go ahead and do this video live. It's been a while since I've done a live video. I'm on my Magical Experiments page doing it, so hello to any of you who managed to make it in here. Um, Today I wanted to talk about how to do magical workings without notes. And really what I'm going to be sharing is a process not only about how to do magical rituals without notes, but really how to learn any technique without relying upon notes. Because when I first started practicing magic, I'd have like a sheaf of paper, kind of like this, with lines and everything else, and I would be doing the ritual, and I would awkwardly read off, whatever the ritual was. Like, it might be like, okay, I'm here and I'm reading this ritual, and it's, you know, align yourself to the directions, sky above, land below. When you're reading something off, it's not really the same experience when it comes to doing magical work. It's not that vivid experience that you're looking for, and it takes a lot of the magic out of the experience. So I noticed that, and I really didn't like it. And so what I ended up deciding to do was something that would allow me to take what I was experiencing and turn it into something a lot more real and visceral. I mean, what's the point of doing magic if it isn't real and visceral, right? And so what I did is I set it up so that when I would go and do a ritual, I began to think about, like, how can I take what I'm learning or what I'm trying to do here and make it into something that's embodied, something that's part of me, where I'm not having to think about it. Because if I'm reading off of notes, I'm having to think about it. I'm not in the experience. Instead, I'm just kind of awkwardly there, reading these notes off, trying to make sure I get everything right. It just isn't the same experience. And it doesn't just diminish it for me, it diminishes it for other people, and for that matter, for the spirits or whatever else it is that we're working with. So one of the things that I learned over the years that's really helped me immensely is what's known as the mansion of memory technique. If you're familiar with that, it's basically where you memorize something and you associate it with specific symbols in your mind, um, that allow you to recall that memory as you're going. Now, the value of memorizing something is that at first it will feel as awkward as if you were reading from notes, because you're trying to remember it. But as you do it more frequently, you'll find that you don't have to think about it as much, and it just becomes part of the experience because it's something that's embedded within your mind and your body. So for example, let's do those same lines that I just did before. Align yourself to the directions sky above, land below, and to the directions east, south, west, and north. You see how different that is right there, how that feels compared to when I was trying to read it aloud? There's a difference, isn't there? It's not nearly as awkward. It's actually something that you feel and experience. And that's really what we're looking for. So one of the things that I recommend is that when you are doing, when you're getting ready to do magical rituals, if you have notes, it's okay. You can have them. But what I suggest is that you start trying to practice those notes. You start trying to practice based off those notes, and then you start to get rid of those notes because you memorize the rituals. So for example, what I will do is, if I'm learning a lot of different lines, I'll start learning the first few lines, and kind of just repeat them and get to know them. And I'll do this a few days in a row. I know it doesn't sound very exciting, but trust me when I tell you that when you have memorized these words, it's going to actually help you to focus on the experience, because you're going to know the words. You're not going to be thinking about them. Instead, you're going to be focusing on what those words embody. And again, remember what I did earlier where I said align yourself to the direction, sky above, land below. You don't even have to think about it anymore. I'm just talking about it right now, but it just comes out of me like that. That's what you want. So when you're trying to memorize something for a ritual, you can have those notes initially, but don't do the ritual with those notes. Instead, just use those notes as a way to help you start memorizing. Now, here's the other thing: a ritual or a magical working isn't just words. I mean, there's actions and things like that. So I take the same concept and I apply it to my actions. one of the things that I'll do is um, I will take a time. I will take the time to learn a specific action, singularly in relationship to the other actions. And I'll give you an example. I'm learning some Qigong right now, techniques. And when you're learning Qigong techniques, the best way to do it is you break it down into one step at a time. So if you have to do something with your left arm, you learn how to do that thing with your left arm before you move on to the thing with your right arm. And then you learn how to do the thing with the left and the right at the same time as needed in order to help you learn that experience. Again, it's a matter of building up memory, in this case, muscle memory. And at first, when you do it, you are going to be thinking about that motion and what you're feeling and what you're trying to do. That's just a natural thing because you don't know it yet. But as you continue to do it by repetition, what you're doing is you're embedding it into your muscle memory. You're embedding it into your mind. And it becomes something that allows you to fully focus on the experience that you're trying to create and cultivate. And like I said, in this case, if I'm doing a thing with Qigong and I'm learning that left thing, I'm going to learn that before I learn that the right movement. Because by knowing how to do just that left movement and not even thinking about it, then it becomes that much easier to focus on the right movement. And so you're tying things together. And that's why with magical rituals, if you're taking note, if you have notes on what you have to say and what you have to do, you want to break it down into small chunks, easy things that you can replicate and do on your own. So, you spend that time memorizing those first couple lines, and you spend that time learning those motions or things that you need to do. And once you have those in your head, then you move on to the next step. And by chunking it down, you're not looking at the whole thing. A lot of times what I see with people in general, and this is true for a lot of different tasks, not just magical rituals, I mean, anything really, is people will get caught up in the entire scope of what they're trying to do. They'll get caught up in it and they'll be like, oh my God, I have to do all of this. Like I have to remember this. I have to memorize this magical ritual. Well, yeah, you're trying to learn this magical ritual. But do you need to learn every single thing of the magic ritual in one go? You're not going to. It's not possible. So you break it down, you chunk it into small steps. And by doing that, it makes it a lot easier to learn that ritual, and you begin to embody it into yourself. And here's the interesting thing. A lot of people think that magic only happens when you're actually doing the ritual. But in my experience, when I'm learning something, whether it's a Qigong movement or a magical ritual or whatever, I experience that magic through the process of learning. So if I'm memorizing lines, it may not seem like a very magical activity or all that fun to memorize lines, but trust me, it's very valuable. When I'm memorizing those lines, I'm also engaging magically with the concepts that I'm learning about. And so I'm embodying them. So for example, when I learned the Sphere of Art ritual, which I might add is like a good, when it's all said and done, it takes about a good 15-20 minutes to do, like even when you have it memorized. When I was learning it, and saying this stuff aloud, I was focusing on one section at a time. Now, typically there would be a thing where you'd have like 3 chants. So you'd have, the outer court, the middle court, the inner court. So I'm learning the outer court. Well, what I'm doing is I'm building on that connection I feel with that outer court, and I'm strengthening it by learning and repeating those words. So there's magic going on right there anyway. I'm building up this embodied connection. And once I learn the outer court and I have it in my mind and I can say it, then I go on and I learn the middle court, and then I do them together. I'll learn the outer court, so I'll do the outer court and then middle court and memorize the middle court. And then once I memorize the middle court, then I'll do outer court, middle court, inner court. And so you see, you build, you chunk it down, make it easy to learn, but then you build off of it. And at the same time, you create this magical connection between yourself and what it is that you are trying to embody through that ritual. So instead of, getting caught up in notes, oh, I got these notes and I've got to memorize them, like, right, I gotta say this stuff for this ritual. Instead, you just say it. Instead of reading off, align yourself to the direction, sky above, land below. Again, look at how wooden that is. You just say, align yourself to the direction, sky above and land below, and to the directions, east, south, west, north. Right now, you can feel that a lot more than when I was just trying to quote unquote read it off the paper, right? And that's just the thing of it. When you feel it, it becomes part of who you are. And as a result of it becoming who you are, it allows you to take what you're doing and transform it into an experience that truly changes you and the people around you and allows you to connect with the spiritual forces. That's why memorizing is one of the best magical tools that you have available to you. And unfortunately, memorizing is underrated a lot of times. Like, I know a lot of people are like memorizing? Pfft, why do I want to do that? That's not magical. And my response to that is, yeah, it actually is, because it's allowing you to embody what you're trying to do. It's allowing you to take it into yourself and make it part of your identity. And when something becomes part of your identity, it's not something you have to think about, it's something you become. If you have to think about something, you're not really in touch with it. It's just the truth. And think about a job. When you've gone into a job and you've had to learn stuff. The first couple months are awkward. You're trying to learn all of these different things, but as you start to learn things and get comfortable with it, as it starts to become part of your identity, you don't even think about it. It's the same thing with magic. So when you understand this concept, that's when you can start throwing away the notes. You don't need them to do magical rituals anymore. And it's the same thing when you're learning, Qigong or anything else. When you understand that, okay, I can chunk this movement down and just learn this one movement. And then when I'm ready, I can learn the other movement and build off the first one and start to create this specific kata or movement or meditation or whatever you want to call it. Then what ends up happening is it becomes a seamless experience that carries you in to the magical working. And because you've memorized that, you have this history behind you of all the effort and work that you've put into, and that actually strengthens your magical working as a result. Because you're not just doing that magical ritual right then, you're also tapping in to all of those moments that you spent learning stuff. And here's another secret I'm going to give you that is really helpful for learning, memorizing something like a magic ritual or something. Do it when you're exercising. Now you're going to say, what? What do you mean do it when you're exercising? Well, for example, I lift weights twice a week and I swim 3 times a week. And when I was learning the sphere of art, memorizing it, what I would do is I'd go and I'd jump into the pool and I'd start swimming. Well, all that time that you're swimming, you can, of course you can focus on the strokes and everything else, which you did, but you can also use that time to memorize. And so what I did is I would start saying in my mind, can't say it aloud, of course, because otherwise I'm going to get water in my mouth. That's not going to be fun. But I would say it aloud in my mind. I'd be saying in my mind, I'd be align yourself to the direction, sky above, land below, et cetera, et cetera. And here's what I found. When I connected memorizing a magic ritual with movement, it actually, with exercising in this case, what it actually did is it did force me to really focus on really learning what I was learning, but it also changed the connection that I was feeling with it, because I had this physical movement tied into it. And I was taking this exercise that was really in a way freeing up my mind to focus. Because here's the thing about exercise. When you're exercising, you're really giving it your all, your mind does get freed up. Your monkey mind just shuts up and you're able to focus on feeling the experience. And when your monkey mind shuts up and you're in that zone for exercising, that's the best time to memorize these ritual lines. So suddenly, I'm memorizing these lines and I'm experiencing them while I'm singing or swimming, not singing. But anyway, it became this magical experience in and of itself. And I've done that ever since with other things that I memorize. When I'm exercising, I use that as prime time for that, because, hey, I'm exercising anyway. My mind is freed up. I may as well put that to good use. And that's kind of where that's kind of a benefit right there with exercise, where you can kind of double up your time, right? Because you're exercising, you're lifting weights, you're swimming, you're doing whatever it is you're doing. And at the same time, you're exercising your mind, you're memorizing, you're memorizing the lines for your ritual, you're memorizing, whatever it is you need to do. Doesn't apply so much to the actual movements. I mean, if you're learning Qigong, and everything else, you're not going to be like swimming and then doing the Qigong. I guess you could do the Qigong movements in your mind, but I think it'd be a little distracting from the actual swimming. So again, going to recap this, and for those of you who end up watching this later, start at the beginning, all that good stuff. when you're trying to learn a magical ritual, whether it's lines to that ritual or whether it's movements or anything else, chunk it down. Break it down into one small item that you can focus on at a time. You know, if you have a set of lines, like 4 lines you need to learn, then focus on those 4 lines. Learn those 4 lines first. Don't try to learn everything at once. You're not going to be able to do it. It'll overwhelm you and you'll quit. And that's true in life in general. Anytime you learn something, break it down. When you can break it down into small tasks, it's a lot easier to get something done. Your feeling of accomplishment goes way up because you see progress. And that's what we need as people. We need progress. That's what we're really designed around in a lot of ways when it comes to our minds and how we think and approach life. So when you approach things in that way, you will find that when you chunk it down, it makes it a lot easier to learn those ritual lines. And again, it's better than just reading it off like, oh, okay, align yourself to the direction, sky above. Again, you can see it just doesn't feel the same thing as when I say, align yourself to the direction, sky above, land below, and to the directions east, south, west, north. You can feel that. I'm sure right now as you're watching this, you can feel that right through the video because it's felt as opposed to something that's read. So chunk it down and then build off of it. Okay, you learn those 4 lines. Well, now you need to learn the next 4 lines. So say those first 4 lines in your mind or out loud, and then go into the next 4 lines. Learn those lines and do them together. And remember that as you're doing this, you are creating this embodied experience. You're creating this embodied experience that is going to help you fully embody and experience the magical working. It's going to make it part of your reality. And as a result, what it will do for you is it will transform your understanding of the ritual. So remember that as well. And then finally, find a way to mix it into exercise or something like that, some activity that you're doing otherwise. And remember, all of this is going to create an embodied experience for you that is going to that is going to basically allow you that when you're doing this ritual, it's not like you're doing the ritual the first time. You're taking all that effort you put into it, all that effort of memorizing, all that effort of learning, and that becomes its own momentum behind that ritual. That's something people don't understand about magical workings. A magical working isn't just done in the moment. It is done across every single moment that you have spent learning it and making it part of you. And when you understand that, it changes your approach to magic because you're not just drawing upon that one moment when you're doing it, you're drawing upon every single moment. And that's powerful, my friends. That is part of what makes magic what it is. Okay, so that's it for my video today. Thanks for watching, those of you who are live, and for those of you who weren't, thanks for watching anyway. Take care and have a great day. Time to end.